Hey guys, this is Alan, finally getting back to you with another video on my Ranger project. It has been a long journey, starting with frame off resto, getting the frame blasted down, cleaned up, fixing a little bit of rust, nothing too terrible on the frame, but I did find a couple areas to call to your attention. One of them is on the driver's side by the fuel tank, between the fuel tank and the frame rail. It's a great place to collect a lot of crap, and I went in and blew it all out with air hose and water to clean it up, and then just put some QR-15 in there to try to neutralize any rust that was in there. What you might want to do is drop the tank. I did not do that just because I didn't want to deal with some of the other rusty bolts and crap like that, even though I did blast everything around it. So a little tidbit there. The Ranger has all new suspension, front and rear, leaves, coils, you name it. I did go with a heavier coil, and I think I got those through LMC truck, and just to handle the extra weight of the V8. Everything, like I say, everything is brand new, really, from end to end. The bed had some rust around the wheel wells, and especially in the corners, rear corners underneath the tailgate area. So I just trashed that bed and found another one that didn't have any rust, and went with that. Other than that, it's all original as far as the body goes, except for the seats. They came out of a 1999 Ranger. They didn't have any rips or tears, and I had it as a parts truck, so that's what we used. This particular Ranger came with a 305 speed, and it had the 7.5-inch rear end under it. This 99 parts Ranger that I had a 4.0, the earlier 4.0, not the good one, but it did have a 8.8 in it, Positrack. So I used it, and ended up, for what it was going to cost me to rebuild this posi, I found a place out of Washington State that sold me a complete posi already rebuilt for actually less. So we'll see if I can find the link. It was through eBay that I found it. Anyway, so we upgraded to the 8.8 on it. Also, that 99 had a sway bar kit on the rear end, so I transferred that over to this one as well. And as I did post on the couple comments I saw on the YouTube pages, excuse me, if you look on LMC truck in their catalog, you will see they have the sway bar mounts, the link kits, all of that. So, and it looks like for all years. So I don't know which Ranger options got you which, or got you the sway bar kit, but it does appear, at least according to their catalog, that it was an option across all model years that I saw. Let's see what else. As far as the engine, I've got videos earlier that detail that. A couple things I learned along the way. I normally, if you've looked at any of the other videos on my YouTube channel, I've come from truck pulling background, and then I have a drag truck that I built. Those are both big blocks. We're running solid roller lifters, big carburetors, all that good stuff. So this was a little learning experience. It was my first time with a 302 and a hydraulic roller setup, so I had to learn a few lessons on that, and ended up, but we finally got things figured out. Right push rods, right everything, and I'm running Scorpion pedestal roller rocker system on it. Got things where I'm happy with it. So, and then the last little thing I screwed up on, was I'm running a 650 Holley carburetor. I had a whole bunch of spare parts from the 850s and 1050s that I've dealt with, 950s, and I just assumed that a lot of those double pumper parts interchanged. So when I rebuilt the carburetor, I just used gaskets that I had laying in my kit, spare parts kit. Come to find out, the 650 double pumper has a different base gasket than, say, an 850. The idle holes for the idle circuit are in different places on the 650. So the darn thing wouldn't idle, and that caused me a little headache until I did some research and figured that out. So finally we've got this thing idling really nice. I do have to do a little bit of tweaking when I think maybe on the accelerator pump at least. I may have to go to a 50cc shooter or change the key to the ramp rate, so it'll come in faster and give a little bigger shot quicker. We'll see on that. A little more tweaking to do on the carburetor, but otherwise, I mean, it runs and idling and it sounds really good. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. I'm not going to show a video just yet. I did put a teaser video on my Front Page Fab Facebook page. If you want to look for that, look me up and you find it there. That's the teaser video on it. We're going to put an exhaust on it. The exhaust I'm going to run is a Cherry Bomb Vortex muffler. The particular one I chose it's a 2 in, 2 out, and they say that setup functions as an X pipe. So I'm going to try that, run duals into that, and use it as the X pipe. The reason I'm doing that is one muffler functions as an X pipe, so I save the cost of a muffler and I save the cost of creating the X further upstream. We'll test it, what the heck, it's a street truck, it's a fun truck. If it works, it works. Let's see, so questions on the electrical. Somebody asked about that. So basically what I did on my electrical is I took the stock wiring harness from the 3.0, the 93 3.0, and I saved all that, and I basically just took it apart. Took all the split loom off of it, all the tape off of it, got it individualized out, and then I just got my trusty Haynes manual with the schematics in it for that year, and I also went online and just found some additional information that this Haynes book was a little vague on, and using those pieces of information, fuel block, wire color codes, things like that, I basically just gutted out that wiring harness. Once you learn how to take the keyways out of the connectors, you can basically just pull the wires out, terminal and all, and you can get plug kits for it to fill those in so you don't lose any waterproof capabilities of them. And that's what I did. And then I just basically made my own new harness. Just went to Napa and got me a bulk of split loom and just did my own harness. I'll kind of show you that when we go over there and look under the hood. As far as the fuel system goes, that was another question. What I did on that, I kept the stock fuel pump for fuel injection, and I put a bypass style regulator on the firewall behind the carburetor, and so I'm running a return back to the tank. Set it at 5.5 pounds fuel pressure, and it's coming in. So far that seems to be working really good. So that's really all I did there. I did run new fuel line from the fuel filter up to the regulator, and from the regulator all the way back to the tank. Let's see, what else did I do? I'm trying to think of other questions that might have been on there. headers was another question. What I did for that was I wanted to use long tube headers just because they get more torque. And doggone it, I just couldn't find a set that would work. I tried about 4 different types, 4 different sets. I am keeping this as a 5-speed truck. And so because the bell housing was bigger for a 302, I think the clutch or the flywheel, I want to say, is an 11-inch. So because of that, it's bigger than an automatic flex plate. So I just didn't have as much room between the frame rail and the bell housing to accommodate long tubes. And I didn't want to pay to have customs done. So what I ended up doing was I just went back to Jags and ordered the set that comes in the swap kit. Should have done it to begin with, I guess. So that's what I did. So if you go on Jag's site and search for 302 Ranger Swap, they offer a kit that has the adapter that bolts on the cross member for the engine. They have the motor mounts, frame and engine motor mounts. They have the headers. They basically have everything you need to put that 302 in. Now, as I alluded in some of the videos, I'm just kind of doing a summary here. Because I went with the 5-speed, and I did not want to put a body lift in it. I had to do some modification on the tunnel area, and quite a bit of clearancing, really. And then I also had to heat up, there's some videos out there about heating up the heater core area and kind of forming that. On this one, I had to do that. I had to do it quite a bit, actually, and it works. I've got clearance. I did have to take, I'm using the original cross member that came on this truck with the 5-speed. The only thing I had to do, because on the motor mount for the mount for the transmission for a F-150, which is what this 5-speed came out of, they're taller, thicker. So what I ended up having to do is, instead of having that motor mount where it goes up on the inside of the channel over on the driver's side, I actually went under and used about a 3/4 inch spacer that I made, and then all grade 8 bolts so it won't break or shear. And then on the passenger side, I of course lowered it down, so I had to drill 3 new holes for that. But by doing that and modifying the heating up and modifying that heater core area, I created the room I needed for the valve cover. Also, just as extra insurance on these aluminum covers that I'm using, I went ahead and took off a little bit on the edges there, just to give myself a little bit of insurance. But it looks like there's plenty of room now. In hindsight, I would put a body lift on it. It would have saved a lot of headaches, a lot of headaches. One of the things I ended up having to do, and I think I found one mention of this, I don't remember if it was on a forum or a video that I saw somewhere, but what I ended up doing, after I clearanced the tunnel and I did all this other stuff, man, I could just get that transmission up in there, and man, I was so close. And what I ended up having to do was what I really didn't like to do, but it was the only option, short of taking the cab off. And that was, I shaved off about a 1/2 inch off the pilot shaft. And once I did that, I got the clearance I needed. It slips right up in there, goes in, everything lines up. It does engage the pilot into the crankshaft. It's a good deal. So that's what I did on that. Anything else? Any other questions? I'm not thinking of any offhand. If you have questions on the wiring, I'll do my best to help you, but it is very labor intensive. And I think when I was looking in the old Haynes manual, there is some differences, especially 98 and newer. The harnesses are a little different. I'll try to help, but because it is so labor intensive, I'm not just, I'll try and point you in the best direction I can, but I don't want to steer you wrong, and so I don't have your harness in front of me with all the information that I ended up digging up on mine. It's kind of hard to give you 100% accurate information. So with that, I'm going to take the camera off the tripod here. We'll walk over and I'll show you a little bit under the hood. And if you see something you have a question about, please feel free to comment on the video. I'll be more than happy to answer as best I can. So with that, get this off the tripod. Okay, so there she is. She's very dusty and dirty right now, so pardon me, and I still need to do a cut and buff, but that's going to have to wait until spring when I can get it out where I've got water and everything to do the cut and buff. But what you really are interested in is under here. And if you notice right now, what I'm doing is I am trying to draw down the AC system, because one of the things that was a goal of mine from the very beginning was I wanted to keep it an AC truck. So did everything to keep it AC. The only thing I had to modify to do that, I am running custom bracket there. Part of it's the original, part of it's modification, so I have a power steering there, and you'll see all that in one of the earlier videos. This all came with the 9330. The only thing I had to do different was I had to add a little bit right here. You see that right here. I went down to Napa, and they've done experience with this in the past, and it's a special fitting for this with hose clamps, and they said they've done them like this for years. There is a place, if this ends up failing, there is a place I found out about over around, I think it's Flora, Indiana, that they'll make custom whatever you want. So I may end up having to go that route, but we'll see. If this works, it works. So far it's held a vacuum. I've tested that already, and right now I'm just kind of drawing it down again to get it ready to charge the AC system. So let's see, as you notice, I didn't bother cleaning it up. Inside here, it's supposed to be kind of a sleeper look. We'll see how that works out for me. So this is what I did for my upper hose. I did use the exact same hose material for the lower to get it formed into the way I wanted it. I'm running stock alternator, and let's see, so vacuum system is there for the AC, heater, all that. If you look back in there, see if I can zoom in here, there's the fuel pressure regulator that I am using. And I just ran the hose up, and the return hose is right back down, follows the left frame rail, goes back to the fuel tank. Wiring, I brought in an MSD6 ignition. Had my chip in it for my RPM limiter. So I just ran the harness here. I put a couple connectors in line here, so that if I need to change this out, it's a simple matter of unplugging a few connectors and swapping it out. Also, if I need to take the motor out, which I did have to do after I had it all in place, having those connectors in there really makes it work nice. So this connector goes over to the coil, which is over on the other side, and then I'm using the stock MSD that goes over here. The distributor, I am using a Ford DuraSpark distributor, as I mentioned in an earlier video that I had Scotty Johnson from Parkland Auto Machine out in Tacoma, Washington. He recurved it based on the specs for this engine. And then MSD offers an adapter that goes from the Ford connector. Trying to get where I can get a video or a shot of it. You can barely see it in there. So there's an adapter there that just goes over, and then goes into the standard MSD connector. And then this did harness there. Some of this is actually some of the original harness here. It goes over for the alternator, keep that working. And now we'll move over here. Here's some more of the harness right here that we did. One of the things I read is for the AC system to work on this, I had to keep a sensor. There's two sensors. There's one right here that is for the AC system, and then there's another one right here that is for the temperature gauge inside on the dash. So I've kept those. Again, I found all those through the schematics in the Haynes manual and online. Kept what I needed for the AC over here. Goes into the harness. This is the AC harness. Kept that. And you really can't see very well, but without light. But here is the original connectors, and I just stripped out what I didn't need. Just because I wanted it to be clean. I didn't want to cut and have crappy wires hanging around, that kind of thing. So I tried to clean that up as best I can. See, right now I have my little remote starter so I can do some work since I'm by myself here. So I made a little connector deal here so I can very easily unplug it from the stock wiring harness, start ignition switch, and use my bump starter. So that's kind of it that I can think of. Again, if there is any questions you have, please feel free to ask me. One thing I'll point out, in case somebody notices it, you'll notice I added some fans here. I don't know if they'll help, we'll find out. As you notice here, you can see there's very little room in there. Unfortunately, there is no room for a puller style fan. So I even tried cutting off the stock mounting tabs here. This radiator, by the way, is for the 4.0 Ranger heavy duty automatic heavy duty cooling. And I'm still facing challenges with heat. So what I did was I cut the tabs off in an effort to try and get this radiator as far forward as I can. Even did a little work down the bottom to shove it forward. I had the stock condenser, and then up front I have a pusher, the highest rated pusher I could fit in there, and pushing it through. I had these fans laying around that I ended up not needing. They're higher speed fans that came out of some servers I had at work, so I wired them in and have them on a switch, and they're just providing some heat up here at the very top, or moving some air through at the very top where the other fan isn't. We'll see if it's going to work or not. If this doesn't work, I may end up having to do some modification here on the core support to try and get that further forward, to get a puller in there, a big puller in there. We'll see. Hoping I don't have to, but if we do, we do, I guess. So that's what that deal is right there. So I think that's all I can think of. The power steering pump, that was in there when I got with the 3.0. I just slung it aside and while I was doing all the work. I did have to do one new hose on the bottom for the return hose, but that's still the stock pressure side hose. Hopefully I don't have to replace it, but so far no leaks. So other than that, that's all I can think of right now. Pardon the dirt. It is what it is. So, like I say, if you have any questions,
Feel free to comment on the videos and I'll answer them as best I can.